Big ending.
Yeah. See, now, that's where you can hear. You see, Joe was a practicer, you know. I mean, Freddie Gruber used to tell me how they used to hang out together and practice all day long, every day, you know, and on pads and on pillows and things like that, you know, to develop chops like that. And of course, they were big fans of Buddy and Kluke, you know, and Kluke used to think they were nuts for putting in so much time, you know. But you could hear it. There it is, you know. See, Philly plays. That's rudimental drumming. You know, that's some very difficult stuff that straight ahead. But you could hear a lot of those. I hear a lot of Buddy's tricks and ideas, except the way Philly Joe would play them. They're phrased differently.
Could you give me an example of that?
Well, you know, when he got into the fast, when he got into the actual, you know, the real fast things, and then billy up, you know, with the bass drum, and the big tom and going around the drums. Actually, I've heard Buddy do that 100 times. People say, "Well, Buddy heard Philly Joe do it." That's not true. Philly Joe heard Buddy do it, and but Philly Joe has his own way of doing it. I mean, that's Philly Joe, period. And that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter who you heard do it. It's how you do it, you know. And that's an example of how he does it.
It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it.
Yeah, and that's what made him, you know, I mean, he was probably one of the most, you know, there aren't too many small group modern drummers around that could do the kind of things Buddy could do in a big band. Philly Joe was one of the few that could do things like that and really get an audience on its feet.
Yeah.
Playing technically difficult things, you know, which requires practice and knowledge of the rudiments, you know, which I don't have. That's why I can't do it. I mean, I just can't, you know. And it's crisp and clean, too. I mean, that's not easy stuff to do.
Yeah.
And then he'd stick in, you know, little earth-shaking things that were, and he had a way of doing it. Pop, beat up, you know. Even his phrasing, when he phrased with the instruments, he wasn't accurate with playing along with the horns because he had his own little choppy way of doing things. You can hear that on like on the Buzzard, on Porgy and Bess and all that with Gil Evans.
Mm-hmm.
He'd play the figures much shorter and choppier than the band. I mean, the band was playing a little longer, and he wasn't really with them. I mean, it's not a matter of who was right or wrong. Frankly, he was wrong, actually, because he should have been playing it a little more linear, you know, to use the. But that was due to his own lack of experience playing with a large band, you know, and the band couldn't play it like he played it because you wouldn't have heard what was written.
Yeah,
you know?
By Gil, it was much more legato.
Yeah, of course, Gil is more, but that was Philly Joe's style, you know, and you hear it here too. He phrases, he's got a special way of phrasing, which is great with a quintet or a quartet, absolutely. You know, as soon as you get to a larger group, you can hear there's problems there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just learn, you know, if you just ignore him and just listen to his knowledge of what the piece is all about and the solo, you forget about it, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're talking with Mel Lewis about Philly Joe Jones, and I think we should hear something now from a Riverside album called Showcase. Philly Joe Jones Showcase, and we'll hear something called Joe's Delight, written by Philly Joe, who, by the way, also plays a little bit of piano.
Oh, yes, he does. I heard him play piano. He could play the piano.
In fact, you know, I think just for kicks, even though it's a drum show, we'll throw in the trio track where he plays. He plays on Gwen. So first we'll hear Joe's Delight, which is played by Bill Barron on the tenor saxophone, Julian Priester on trombone, Jimmy Garrison on bass, and Sonny Clarke on piano. And then we'll go over to Gwen, which will have Philly Joe Jones on piano with Garrison and Sonny Clarke. No, pardon me, with Garrison and... oh, yeah, that's what it says here. As previously noted, Gwen is a two-man trio number.
A two-man trio number?
I'm getting confused. All right, let's go to the music. Philly Joe Jones first on drums, on Joe's Delight, and then on piano on Gwen from the album Philly Joe Jones Showcase. By the way, the phone number here is 853-5225. I believe that's it. It's either 853 or 854. I think it's 853, area code 212-5223 if you'd like to give us a call. Okay, let's carry on with Philly Joe Jones. All right, and we just heard something from an album called Kelly Great on the VJ label. And we heard something called What No. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, Kenny Washington called before to let me know that I was talking about how much Philly Joe practiced in the old days. I mean, he really did a lot of practicing, and that he practiced out of the Charlie Wilcoxon book, which was an excellent book at that time, and he got probably a lot of his ideas from it because it was an excellent book.
Charlie
Wilcoxon.
Wilcoxon.
Yeah, and that was an interesting thing to know because, see, I never went through any books myself, but I remember that book. It was a very popular book, not very easy either. It was a difficult book, and he went through it, and that's what he practiced out of. And but he did diligently practice, and you can hear it in his playing. His playing is always so clean and so proper, and always a good sound. He always managed to get he played the hell out of the snare drum. I mean, that's not easy, really.
No. I want to just tell everybody what we heard on the VJ label from an album called Kelly Great. We heard Lee Morgan, Wayne Shorter, Wynton Kelly, Philly Joe, and Paul Chambers on something called What No, which was an original by Lee Morgan. And before that, two items from the album Philly Joe Jones Showcase on Riverside. We heard Joe's Delight with Bill Barron on tenor sax, Julian Priester, Jimmy Garrison, Sonny Clarke, and Philly Joe. And then a duo, of piano and bass called Gwen. And on that one, Philly Joe Jones overdubbed.
Oh, is that what
drums.
He did?
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering. I heard drums. And then he played the piano on it, on his original called Gwen.
Kenny also informed me that he played saxophone.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but he also told a lot of great jokes. He was he was a joker. He was always into he's into the Dracula thing, and he and Lenny Bruce were good friends.
Blues for Dracula, right?
And he used to, tell a lot of Lenny's jokes. So, he and Lenny got along great. He and Lenny and Joe Maney when they come out to the coast. And but one of the funniest scenes is he liked to sing. And I remember at the Blue Note one night. In fact, Kenny reminded me of that, but I remember because I was there. Kenny went up and Joe was playing with who was he playing with that night? It doesn't even matter, but he was playing that night, and he got up and decided to sing, and Kenny sat down at the drums and played, and he sang, "It had to be you," "It had to be you." He sang it slower than that though. It had to be you. 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 It had to be you, It had to be you. It had to be you. It had to be you. And then people were breaking up by that time. And he went right on to the end. It had to be you. 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 And of course, it tore the place up. And it was funny.
What a great sense of humor.
Then he sat down and played the drums again wonderfully.
Yeah, there's I remember an interview with Philly Joe Jones in Downbeat I read maybe about 10 years ago. Long interview, very, very interesting, where he was well-spoken, articulate about all his things. And he's one of the giants.
Well, there was another instance where on the coast where he was hired to do a recording session. There was a French horn player by the name of John Grass that put together a session with Paul Chambers and Philly Joe and a local piano player named Paul Moore, who was an excellent piano player, and Bill Perkins, and I forget the other saxophone player. It was Bud Shank. I mean, it's like a combination of West Coast meets, Well, Joe didn't have any drums again. So they called me and asked me if I'd bring my drums down, so I did. And, of course, Joe didn't show up. So I ended up playing on the date and on two tunes. Then Joe did show up, and he played on the rest of the album, which was just about, I think he did two tunes, maybe four tunes. Anyway, I stayed there and waited till it was all over, and then I left. I took the drums home, and we all said, so long, I'll see you tonight, and so on. I don't know why he was late or whatever. I have no idea. I know he didn't have any drums because I had to bring mine. Years and years and years and years later, on this VJ label, a record comes out, and it's under it's called Mel Lewis and Friends. It's the same as my record, same title as my record. It's under my name, and it was Philly Joe's date. I mean, I wasn't even supposed to be there. I got paid for one session by accident, and this record came out under my name. It also came out on the Xanadu label under, was it Hampton Hawes? No, Hampton wasn't on that record, though, but it was under, it was like an all-star session with Paul Chambers or something like that. And it was the same record, exactly, but it came out on VJ. You can still buy it. It's under my name, with Philly Joe playing drums on it and me playing drums, but it's not my record. I was like visiting.
Right.
I brought my drums down. I've never understood that.
Yeah.
You know, and of course I've never collected a penny in royalties either. So, but I mean, that's how these things happen, boy.
Yeah. Lawrence Schoenberg here with my special guest, Mel Lewis, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
With part 8 of the history of jazz drums. As right now it's looking like Louie Bellson and Elvin Jones.
Right, that'll be nice. Now that's really two different kinds of personalities, two different kinds of drummers, but they're both great, and I think you'll enjoy the contrast, you know.
Yeah.
Because usually we've been doing like two beboppers or two avant-gardists and all, but I think that'll be something different. I think you'll all enjoy that. I know I will.
And again tonight, for those interested, will be kind of a great bebop night because Art Blakey, Roy Haynes, and Mel Lewis on the same bill.
Yeah, we're all on the same bill.
Yeah,
and,
that's at the JVC Jazz.
I'm lucky. I start. I'm first. I don't have to follow anybody.
Yeah.
I'll be playing with Phil Woods and Red Rodney and Barry Harris and Rufus Reed. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night. Well, we're going to go out with Mel Lewis and the Jazz Orchestra with something from the album 20 Years at the Village Vanguard, recorded 4 years ago, and see what we have time for. And we have time for the Sea Jam Blues.
Okay.
Bill Finnegan's arrangement of Duke Ellington's Sea Jam Blues. See y'all next week.
Yeah, Buddy Rich wanted me. I was supposed to give him this arrangement. He wanted it in his book after he heard it, and I told him when he got well I would give it to him, but I never got to give it to him because he didn't get well.
Yeah. Here it is, Mel Lewis and the Jazz Orchestra.